Hello, and welcome to Inventors Helping Inventors. I'm your host, Alan Beckley, inventor of the Wonder Wallet. If you're an inventor searching for proven ways to make money with your invention, if you dream to see your product selling in stores everywhere, you've come to the right place. There's no better place to get help than from experts, inventors who've already achieved success. Every week, I interview successful inventors, asking them the questions you want to know. Tune in to learn from the experts so you can get your invention out of the tank and into the bank.
And this is a big invention lab where we would not do any product development or anything like that. We would just work on inventions. And so we got about 6,000 patents on our own inventions there. We had a big team of one of every kind of scientist and one of every kind of engineer, and we just put them all on the same team.
It breaks my heart when an inventor reaches out to me after they've spent $10,000 or more with a company who made big promises, but then delivered little or nothing of value. When that happens, you're out $10,000, and you must start over again from scratch to market your invention. Some inventors maxed out their credit cards, hoping the company could make them millionaire inventors instead of putting them into deep debt. The good news is that I've helped many inventors by giving them my unbiased assessment before they plunk down thousands to work with the company. I provided them with detailed information about the company they wouldn't find on their own. Now I'm providing these services to you as a podcast listener. Like a private investigator, I dig into the data, the facts, and give you a detailed assessment. Then you can make a qualified decision whether to proceed with a company or to say no to them. I call this service PI assessment. What will I provide you with the PI assessment of a company? First, I'll get on a Zoom meeting with you to learn what they're proposing to offer you, what you'll pay to work with them, details on the company, their website, etc., and a bit about you and your product. I'm happy to sign a non-disclosure. Second, I'll do my investigation, digging into data on the company. Third, we'll set up another Zoom meeting so I can share my findings and give you my assessment. Armed with my findings and assessment, you can choose what to do next. Your investment for the entire PI assessment is just $200. There are a lot of scammers out there, but there are also some good bona fide companies that help inventors in a variety of ways. I shared my assessment with one inventor from a company who claimed to help hundreds of inventors to license their products. That company was operating out of a UPS store, a P.O. box. Another company had a beautiful professional website showing their staff seated about an opulent conference table. Turns out their headquarters was the 45th floor of a luxury hotel, where the only businesses were those who paid $25 an hour to rent small meeting rooms. Not many staffers there. There are many other stories. If you're about to make a big financial decision and you'd like to know more, just email me at alan@alanbeckley.com. In the subject line, please put PI assessment, just like private investigator. I'll get in touch with you and we can take it from there. Let's make sure it's in your best interest before you spend a bunch of money. I look forward to talking to you again. Just reach out, alan@alanbeckley.com. Welcome to episode number 546. Today, I interview Pablos Holman. Pablos Holman grew up in Alaska, working in a cold, dark basement with an Apple II computer, learning all he could about computing. Then he took his knowledge to help other companies in the 80s and 90s to use nascent computer technology into their operations. Pablos Holman has spent his career turning science fiction into reality. Pablos is known as a hacker, inventor, and futurist with over 70 patents. He's worked on projects ranging from early cryptocurrency and AI systems to helping with spaceships at Blue Origin and developing mosquito zapping lasers to combat malaria. Pablos is also the author of Deep Future Creating Technology That Matters, where he explores the emerging field of deep tech, advanced technology poised to solve the world's most pressing challenges. Through his venture firm, Deep Future, he backs unconventional inventors tackling big problems with bold ideas. Known for making complex technology accessible and engaging, Pablos has spoken at TED, over 30 million views, the UN, Davos, and Google Zeitgeist. You'll want to listen to this entire episode where Pablos shares how he met Nathan Myhrvold and helped him to start the Intellectual Ventures Lab, where they developed over 6,000 patents. Also, how he and the team worked to develop an AI microscope, Easy Scan Go, that could diagnose malaria parasites faster and more accurately from blood drops than could human technicians. And finally, how a key advantage of machine learning is that humans always have to be trained from start to finish. But once a robot knows the process, all robots can learn it. Now let's get right to our interview with Pablos Holman. Well, Pablos Holman, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast with us today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Pablos, can you share a bit of your background with our listeners? Where did you grow up and where did you go to school? And what did you do before you became an inventor and got into this whole realm?
The short version is I grew up in the cold, in the dark, in the basement in Alaska with an Apple II. So one of the first computers you could have at home, one of the first computers Apple ever made. And I was in a pretty isolated place where nobody had ever seen a computer. And I was a 10-year-old kid with nothing else to do. So I learned a lot about it. And so I got real deep into computers the hard way, just taking it apart and trying to put it back together when I was a kid. And so then through the 80s and 90s, I was able to put the first computers in a lot of different kinds of businesses and industries. And I was really lit up about it because I felt like this was a superpower that I had that people didn't know about or understand. And I love to try and show them what it could do for them. And so my early career was all trying to bring computers to new places and then invent new technologies for computers in the 90s. So I worked on things like some of the first web applications in the 90s, and then cryptocurrency also in the 90s, and then AI in the 90s for stock market trading. And then in 2001, I helped start Blue Origin, which is a spaceship company. And now a lot of people have heard about it or seen it because they've been growing. And that was really the point where I started trying to use computers to bring other kinds of technologies to life. And then in 2007, I helped Nathan Myhrvold start the Intellectual Ventures Lab. And this is a big invention lab where we would not do any product development or anything like that. We would just work on inventions. And so we got about 6,000 patents on our own inventions there. We had a big team of one of every kind of scientist and one of every kind of engineer, and we just put them all on the same team. We bought one of every kind of tool in the world, and we just worked on lots and lots of inventions. And we invented everything from a machine to suppress hurricanes to a nuclear reactor powered by nuclear waste. And that was a pretty unique and special experience for an inventor. It was a great place to be because I could operate at a pretty large scale there on lots and lots of different kinds of things. And since then, I have started a venture firm called Deep Future, where I invest in other inventions. And these tend to be breakthrough technologies, deep tech inventions, things that can help solve big problems in the world. And that's what I'm excited about these days. And I just wrote a book about it called Deep Future, which was published last month. then it's probably the only book about deep tech, but it is also very accessible and fun and really tries to make the case that inventors are really important. So that's the shortest bio I can give. Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating because it does illustrate you were, as they always say, there from the beginning. Was a 10-year-old kid with an Apple II in Alaska and
Yeah.
you're trying to figure all this stuff out when there wasn't exactly the internet out there to just say, oh, here are your answers, just Google it and find this out, et cetera. And all the things we just take for granted today. And
Yeah.
then projecting in the 80s and 90s, and especially getting involved with Nathan Myhrvold and Invention Lab. And as an aerospace engineer, I know just a little bit about Blue Origin and SpaceX, and it's something
Cool.
of particular interest to me. So that was cool to be in on that one as well. I originally worked for the Boeing company on the 747 project
Wow. I think
about
isn't
3
it
years.
isn't the last one coming down now? I think they stopped making them a while ago, and that I think they're going to stop flying them any day now. But
They're
they're
still
really
in,
cool plane.
still a lot of airlines, a fair number of airlines have them, but it's a
Oh,
4-engine airplane, and 4-engine airplanes are like, okay, they use way too much fuel for when you have a 2-engine airplane that can go halfway around the world and is much more fuel efficient. So it was, the
oh,
writing was on the wall for huge airplanes with 4 engines, let's just say the A380 and the 747, but at least the
yeah.
747 had a 50-year run, so that's not so bad.
Yeah. Amazing airplane.
Yeah. I want to get back to the main topic here, as I got off a little bit there, but from perusing your website, you're a futurist and a prolific inventor with over 70 patents. And it certainly looks like you intend to address worldwide problems, and you spoke to that. And I especially like to focus what we're talking about here regarding malaria, as over 200 million people are infected by mosquitoes every year,
Yeah.
and many, and especially children, die from it.
Yeah.
Do-
The mosquito spreads a number of diseases. The most significant one is malaria. And that was one we started working on at the Intellectual Ventures Lab about 17, 18 years ago. And because Bill Gates asked us to work on it. And at the time, malaria was taking almost 1 million lives a year, kids under 5 years old who never had a chance. So this is the low-hanging fruit in global health. It's really something we can solve, we will solve in our lifetime, but we can't do it with the existing technologies because they're not good enough. The technology we used to eradicate malaria here in the US was DDT. You just spray chemicals that kill everything, and you hope the good stuff comes back. Where we have this problem in Southeast Asia and Africa, the area is much too big to spray everywhere, and we were trying to invent new technologies for going after malaria.
Absolutely. And I'd like to focus in on what I would call your AI microscope Easy Scan Go that is designed to improve, from what I can see, the accuracy and the speed of diagnosing malaria from blood samples. Can you briefly speak to what role AI plays to provide improved results versus humans who are trained microscopists, for a big
Yeah.
word?
Yeah. So what's typical if you're trying to diagnose malaria, you take a little droplet of blood, it goes on a plate in a microscope, just like you did in high school. And then a microscopist is staring at that slide in the microscope, probably for 20 or 30 minutes, if they're good. And they're looking at these blood cells, trying to figure out if the malaria parasite is in them. And this is a visual matching problem. It's very difficult to do because there's other crap in your blood that was difficult to distinguish. And so the WHO actually rates these people, these lab technicians who do the malaria diagnostic. And I think the rating is from like 1 to 5. And most countries are lucky to have one person that's top rated. It's a very difficult diagnostic to do. It's time consuming and expensive. If it takes you half an hour to do a diagnostic and you want to do millions of those a year, that adds up pretty fast. It's a difficult diagnostic. The malaria parasite is tiny. It literally goes and lives in a blood cell. And so what we wanted to do was make a faster way of diagnosing people. So the malaria parasite, it goes into your blood, and in it, the iron in your blood, the heme and hemoglobin, is toxic to the parasite, and it actually digests that and spits out this little iron crystal called hemozoin. And hemozoin is not in your blood for any other reason. It's produced by the parasite. So if you have hemozoin in your blood, you would have the malaria parasite in you. So we thought an iron crystal is pretty interesting, because if we could shine a laser into your bloodstream, we could maybe do a non-invasive diagnostic. What if we could shine a little laser, light up that hemozoin, you would get back a third order harmonic signal that you could detect. So we might be able to do this in the nail bed or in the eye, your fingernail, where we could just see the bloodstream without even drawing blood. And so we thought this would be amazing, because then we could just diagnose people as they're going through airports or train stations or traveling around. So we spent millions of dollars on this incredibly high-tech femtosecond laser to try and do this. And we kind of got it working, but it was way too expensive. It's completely impractical to deploy. And that part didn't work out. But what did work out was, along the way, we figured out that we could use machine vision. And this is, again, maybe circa 2010, 11, 12 or something. So ways back before the huge AI hype. But we were able to use computer vision to look at the malaria samples from a microscope and pick out the malaria parasite in the same way that I described a human technician doing it. And so we got thousands and thousands of samples of slides tagged by humans with and without malaria to train a machine learning model. And you guys have all heard versions of this by now for other things, so that we could then feed it a new sample and it would instantly be able to use machine vision to figure out if the malaria parasite was in that sample. And that works really well. It's worked really well for over a decade, and it's outperforming all the best humans. So now, we can just have a microscope with a computer in it that is able, that's what EasyScan Go became. It's a microscope that can diagnose malaria automatically, and it makes it very cost effective to do it. So we can ramp up diagnostics, catch these people before they go spreading malaria around and before they develop intense symptoms, and treat them. And so that's a big help. And there's that, and lots of other people's work is involved in helping to eradicate malaria, and the progress is being made. It's very difficult. I didn't have a whole lot to do with that particular invention, but the team worked on it for a few years and managed to work with the Gates Foundation to get it out of the lab and into the world.
Thanks so much for sharing that. You actually gotten what was going to be my next question and answered it already, so that makes that easy. And it's in so many words. Actually, you delved into two different things. The initial approach that you guys took about saying, okay, there's this hemozoin and you can detect it. And then if you can detect it using a laser, in so many words, it lights up, then I would gather it's pretty close to 100% accuracy that there is a malaria parasite there. And you thought that would be simpler in some regard. So you might have looked at it that way, because you could use a nail or an eye, and you could even do things in the airport. But you soon recognized, or over time, the team, I'm sure, recognized that it was way too expensive, and there were some other challenges with doing that. And certainly in places like Africa and other things like that, it would maybe just not be practical.
Yep.
And then it seems like what you essentially did is what's been done more recently, for sure, with AI, is you train it. Instead of training it on large language model here, you're training it on lots and lots of slides that have been diagnosed, so that it can know what to look for in a way that a single human just cannot do, because it has all of these things that it's absorbed across perhaps thousands or tens of thousands of scans, I would presume.
We had that exact thing happen. We got into a place where the machine was outperforming humans. It was finding malaria in samples where the human couldn't find it, and we didn't know why. And that's a typical experience with machine learning. A lot of the time, these things can learn to find things that the humans can't see, and we get really good results out of machine learning in cases like that. And so it is advancing. We got an early start, but now this same kind of thing is being done for all kinds of diagnostics and radiology and things like that, and it's really helping to improve what we can do in diagnostics.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. And one of the points you brought up earlier that I just want to drop back to for a moment, when you said that when the WHO was looking at this World Health Organization and microscopists, so to speak, that could accurately diagnose these things and rated them 1 to 5, there's very few people that were rated near the top, and they can't do thousands and thousands of slides. You just can't do millions with those kind of limitations. Whereas here, you just multiply your learnings across the platform in such a way that now you have an ability to do it more accurately, more quickly, if I've got that right.
You do, and actually the key point you made there is that if you think about humans and you want to train them to do something like drive a car, you have to start over with every single human and train them from the ground up how to drive the car. Robots, if one of them learns, they all learn. And so what's great about being able to embody a solution like this into a machine is that if we can train one microscope, then essentially we can just train them all at the same time for no extra cost. And that is bringing essentially internet economics to these kinds of tools. And so it is very exciting, and we can scale that up because now we've got the scalability of mobile phones. We can make microscopes that don't cost much more and deploy them everywhere.
And also, just to highlight or ask a couple other questions, since this is a computer related technology, that it could be implemented and work with perhaps almost any or most microscopes. Is that accurate?
Yeah, as far as I know, the team did work to build a microscope specifically for this with a microscope manufacturer. Yeah, in theory, you could even get to a point where somebody could take a pinprick, put it on a slide, take a photo with an iPhone and send it in. Like for some diagnostics, that is happening now. Not probably not for malaria, but for lots of other things, we're getting to that point.
This is obviously a very promising technology. And a question just generally I have is, and you may not know the answer to this for sure, but regarding the EasyScan Go and the system, do you know where it is in terms of rollout into the commercial marketplaces, or do you not know that yet?
I worked on this quite a long time ago, and I'm not involved in the intellectual ventures lab or those kinds of projects, it's my understanding is that Gates Foundation has taken them over and they're working on those things, but I don't know what the status is now. But I think this one got rolled out commercially.
It's such a need. So I don't know that I have a whole lot more questions about this other than I would just congratulate you for being involved in, first of all, being a futurist and so many different things and being involved early on and things that the Gates Foundation are particularly interested in and issues that are big worldwide issues that I guess here in the U.S. and North America, people don't have huge problems with malaria. I lived in Panama for 9 years, and I can tell you there's a big problem with malaria in places like that. So this is a gigantic problem that so often doesn't touch us if we're living in America and we're not totally aware of that kind of thing. So it's great to see that technology can be brought to bear to provide solutions that just weren't available before and can help literally millions of people.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
As we roll towards a close, I'd like to ask, are there any parting words you'd like to leave us with?
I'm just really excited that you're doing this and making a podcast for inventors, and that, that these are folks who are doing really important work. A lot of them are isolated. They're lone wolves. They're out there trying to make something new in the world. That's very important to do. And so it's exciting to me that you're out there trying to help them out and give them some inspiration and hopefully some ideas and tools. So good stuff.
For sure. And I get to talk to people besides just yourself that are doing just amazing things. One of them is a product called the Zeen, Zeen.
Okay.
And it's an easy standing device that allows somebody in a wheelchair to be able to stand up and to be able to walk with virtually no risk of falling. And suddenly they're able to be at eye level with people, which is a huge thing psychologically. Because, and this is an amazing product that is, again, giving mobility to people who haven't had mobility in this sense. And there's so many things like that going on that are truly amazing to me. So I just love talking to
Wow.
people like you. And honestly, Pablos, my last question is, how can our listeners reach you if they have other questions or would like to know a little bit more about what you're doing?
They can start at the deepfuture.tech website. So that's deepfuture.tech.
Okay.
And there's links there to LinkedIn and X and all the other places. The Deep Future podcast is there if you like to listen to much longer conversations with nerds, which is what I do. And then the Deep Future book is there. And you can email me. I'm Pablos@deepfuture.tech.
Fantastic.
If you find anybody with like crazy hair and a DeLorean that's got a new invention that can solve big problems, I want to hear about it. So
Super. So Pablos with an S at deepfutures was it com?
it's
Okay.
deepfuture.tech.
You told me that. I just wasn't listening that well.
No
All right.
problem.
So yeah, Pablos at deepfuture.tech. And Pablos, I just want to thank you so much for being on the podcast with us and sharing these important technology that really is life-saving technology and just part of all the other work that you're doing to advance the state of mankind, for lack of a better term.
We need a lot of help. Great that you have an audience that's working on it too.
All right. Thanks a lot for being on the podcast. And then maybe another 6 months or a year, we'll touch base with you and see what new you got going on then.
Yeah, anytime.
I want to take just a couple of moments to do something I don't do often enough, and that is to give you a huge thanks for being a loyal listener to the Inventors Helping Inventors podcast. If you've listened to 2 episodes, or 200, or 400, or anywhere in between, you are a loyal listener, and I appreciate every single one of you. This particular week is very important and meaningful to me. Why? Because on January 14th in 2019, I started this podcast 6 years ago. And I have to tell you, when I first started this podcast, I didn't know if I could find 50 inventors I could interview for the podcast, much less over 300 that I found and more coming to me every day. It's absolutely amazing, and I just love this journey. Without you and podcast listeners all over the world, this podcast would certainly not be going. So once again, I want to thank you. I'm so excited to now have gone on for 6 years with this podcast. My goal is to help you and inventors all over the world by bringing you interesting guests with interesting inventions and cool products, and to share their life stories, their challenges, and their aha moments with you. I hope this will help you as you go through the challenges with your own invention. Now, I'd like to finish with a small favor, and that is, if you could take just a couple of moments and give me not only a rating, preferably 5 stars, but also a review on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, that would be amazing. It helps the podcast more than you might know to keep going and to draw other listeners just like you. And sometimes inventors tell me, well, I don't listen to podcasts, so where do I find it? If they tell you that, here's what you tell them. They can always find the podcast on www.alanbeckley.com/podcast. They can find every episode there. So thank you again for being a loyal listener, and more is coming in 2025. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inventors Helping Inventors. If you like the show, please tell your friends about it. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts so you won't miss a single episode. Talk to you soon.